What's the worst loss your team has ever taken? And I made some criteria for this, right? Because I think when we rank things and we try to list things, we need to have a criteria for how we're considering this. So for it to be a worst loss, you have to consider how good the team is in the AP rankings at the time, the stakes when the loss occurred, bonus points if it occurred during a national championship game, 2003 Oklahoma, what's up? How big the spread was at the time is also a factor for me. So we pulled a few of the best replies that we got to this question. And producer Catherine, a.k.a. producer Cat, a.k.a. SEC Catherine, what we got?
All right. I got the first one for you.
Yes, ma'am.
It's from @J Dave Brinkley.
Okay.
And he says, 1978 Orange Bowl. OU lost to Arkansas 31-6. If the Sooners win, they're national champs. So many rumors surrounded that game.
No, that's a legitimately good game to pick as an Oklahoma fan, though, as many of you will know, and many of you can say, we got a lot of bad losses, but this one isn't particularly important to me because it's got a twist at the end. All right. So in 1977, Oklahoma was ranked number 2 in the country headed into the Orange Bowl 1978. With the win against their opponent, Arkansas, the Sooners would have won their 3rd national title in 5 years. All right. I'm telling you, in the 1970s, Switzer's OU was cooking with gas, talking about propane and propane accessories. All right. But Arkansas, OU's opponent in the Orange Bowl, knew a little bit of something about cooking teams over charcoal because they were really ascending up the rankings. Lou Holtz's Hogs that year started out unranked. Then they went in on their all hell, here comes Arkansas bent when they beat up New Mexico State, then smacked number 15 Oklahoma State, mopped up Texas Christian with hot sauce, all before their only regular season loss came to, I'm going to quote Arkansas fight writer Luke Davis here when he says, those belt-buckled fops from Austin. Which, oh boy, I cannot wait for Texas and Arkansas to play in 2021 this year. But the Hogs finished the 77 season 10-1 with a 26-20 thumping of their hated rival Texas A&M, who was ranked number 11 at the time. So they have a number 6 ranking going into the Orange Bowl. But again, it's the Orange Bowl, and, well, them Hogs was about to be broken in half by the wishbone. You let people tell it back then. The Sooners had run up one side and down the other, number 4 Ohio State, twisted 16th ranked Cyclones like a hair full of locks, like the ones on my head, smashed the Cornhuskers like corn liquor, 38-7 in Norman. So they feeling themselves. They're feeling pretty good about this. They're also a 21-point favorite going into the Orange Bowl. They think they're going to, cook up some bacon, call it a hog, serve it up with some grips, get a national title. You thought. Man, I read the box score. I read some game stories. Arkansas jumped on Oklahoma like its name was Job. Okay, just beat them like they stole something. 31-6, as my man Dave points out, or 31-10, I think it was. Anyway, any hope of claiming a national championship went out the window with that loss. And Arkansas, having started out unranked, would have had to go undefeated for anybody to give them claim to a national championship, right? So they come up short because of Texas. And Texas. All right, so Texas fans going to love to hear me say this. Texas was the only team that year to beat both Oklahoma and Arkansas that season, and did it in back-to-back weeks, beating Oklahoma and Texas, back-to-back weeks. They're undefeated going into the Cotton Bowl against Notre Dame, where the winner effectively wins a national championship, okay? They proceed to lose their perfect season and get skull-dragged by the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame in the Cotton Bowl, 38-10. Notre Dame had one loss that year, and it was to Ole Miss in the SIP. So they claimed the 1977 national championship. So that is 3 of the worst losses for OU, Texas, and Arkansas in the same doggone year. I really love that. All right, Producer Cat, what we got next?
Okay, up next, from @JP Hayes 21. So many to choose from. Texas versus OU 2003. Yeesh. Texas versus Miami 1991. Ugh. Texas versus Kansas 2016.
Okay, so the Texas versus Kansas one to 2016 is pretty awesome because Kansas ain't got no business beating that Texas team. Pick any one of those 3 Miami teams to beat Oklahoma, and you will find an Oklahoma fan that will fight you. because I think through 1985 to 1988, Oklahoma lost 3 games. 1 to Miami on the road, 1 to Miami at home, 1 to Miami in the Orange Bowl. Okay, so you can pick any one of those Jimmy Johnson teams to beat the hell out of Oklahoma. But the reason I want to point out the 91 Cotton Bowl is because it's so much fun. All right, it's the best game we don't ever talk about enough because Texas and Miami going into this game, and Texas has a shot with some things breaking their way in the Cotton Bowl to claim a national championship. But I'm about to tell you a story about how they got skull-dragged 46-3 by Miami in Cotton Bowl. All right. So check it. Texas is 10-1, playing a national title against the Miami team that's 9-2 in the Cotton Bowl. Before the game, UT offensive tackle Stan Thomas claims that he's going to take Russell Maryland's Outland Trophy from him. Russell Maryland's defensive lineman at Miami. Thomas also called Miami players typical gangsters. I hope the first play lasts 5 minutes because I'm going to hit everybody. Like they ain't hear you. Like Miami ain't have dudes like Randall Hill, who basically said, I don't think that anybody can stop me doing anything I want to do. Okay. You had dudes on that Miami team that were afraid to tell their teammates that they like to study. Okay. Anyway, Robert Bailey, who played corner for the Canes, heard Thomas talking his noise. And he said on the first play of the game, he's going to knock a UT player out. When I tell you that man kept his word, on the kickoff, he went down the field and knocked the returner smooth out. Like the trainers had to come get that man. All right. That precedes what is going to be an epic display of the Canes racking up penalties. At one point, I found a picture of 1st and 40 for Miami for some of the antics that they pulled and the unnecessary roughness penalties and the pass interference penalties and the holding penalties, right? Like they did not care. They rack up something like 200 yards of penalties and still managed to beat Texas 46-3. Also, shocker for me, Mike Francesca's on television calling this game somehow. And that was the bookend of what I think is the best loss that I've ever seen anybody take, because 1 is Texas, 2 is that Miami team, which is my team that I never got to see play. And I really, really love that they were able to win a game by 43 points that if they don't give the penalties, probably win something like, I don't know, 150-3. And Texas team was good. They weren't bad. Anytime we're dunking on Texas, I'm here for it. Speaking of dunking on Texas, producer Cat, what we've got next?
All right, this is the last one, which I know is personal to you. It's OU's 2018. Oh, sorry. This is from @JanksJJ17. He said it's OU's 2018 Rose Bowl loss to Georgia. Not even close.
So there's the 55-19 drubbing that USC put on, Oklahoma. And before that, that was bad. After that, 2008, Urban Meyer, Tim Tebow, Florida, that was bad. But my team, the team that I really, really loved, was 2017 Oklahoma Sooners. They had a historically awful defense. You heard Joel say it. But they were winning this game against Georgia in the Rose Bowl. They're up, I kid you not, 31-14 with 3:22 left to play. And Lincoln Riley has the bright idea to squib kick it for whatever reason. It wasn't like, Georgia returners were something, to fear. So they squib kick it. And then Kirby Smart is able to go get 3 points, close the gap 31-17, which doesn't feel like a big deal until Oklahoma comes out in the second half, has to punt after just 3 plays. And then Georgia takes 1 play. Nick Chubb going 50 yards in one direction, and now the score is 31-24. Mind you, it's 31-14, like with 3 minutes left to go in the first half, and now all of a sudden it's 31-24 with like 11:30 left to go in the third. And Oklahoma continues to disintegrate. Okay? Georgia ties the game up, 31 up, off an interception. They got a touchdown tied up 31 up, and then Baker threw it to an interception. So they go up 38-31. And back and forth, Oklahoma and Georgia go till Georgia's able to win this game 54-48 in double overtime against the best Oklahoma team that I can remember. I mean, I know people want to say 2008, but that was my squad. And I sincerely believe if Oklahoma beats Georgia, they beat Alabama, they win their 8th national championship because they were the matchup. They were the one that could give that Alabama defense problems and score with them. But the fact that Oklahoma got outscored by Georgia and Jake from State Farm is enough. I am not recovered. I will never recover from that loss. I can't stand it. So much like I'm in a group text. There's a Georgia fan in a group text. They ain't won no national championship in 40 years. And I got to hear about this man beating up Oklahoma in a Rose Bowl for a shot at a national championship every single week because Lincoln Riley wants to squid kick it up 17 against Georgia, a running football team. All right, I'm through. All right. One of the things I really enjoy about the folks that help you see this show, produce this show, create what I think is a really cool thing for you to consume is hearing their stories. And everybody here is a college football fan. So I had asked this just, what's the worst loss your team has ever had? And everybody had a response. And I thought the response was so good that I asked for each one of them to tell a short story about why they chose the game they did. And you'll know their team and what it means to them. So producer Kat, I want you to tell me who your team is and what's the worst loss you ever saw your team take.
Okay. Well, you know this. I am a Tennessee Volunteer. I know. It's hard to pick. And I know that you said that you need to think about context here and when, what's at stake. And we haven't had anything at stake for 20 years. So I'm going to pick the loss that is the most personal to me and how badly I felt. And I'll give you a little bit of context here. So it was in 2015 and it was Tennessee playing your Oklahoma Sooners. And I worked games most of the time. Like I was on the field with a camera in my hand. And I remember my senior year, I was like, I don't want to do that. I want to be a fan and I want to be able to go to the games and be in the environment for my last year of college. And I had somehow gotten on the front row of our student section at that game, like the front row where I'm featured on the Jumbotron a million times. And Tennessee was fired up that game. We were pumped. All right. That was, I think, the Butch Jones brick by brick era with Josh Dobbs. And, we had done the whole checker the stadium where it's orange and white and it looked really cool. And it was actually very loud. We broke a decibel record for how loud the game was. But I think we started out 17, up 17. And then you guys slowly start crawling your way back in. And I just remember it goes to overtime. And this is Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield's playing for you guys. We have Josh Dobbs. And the game ended after going back and forth with Josh Dobbs throwing an interception. That's how the game ended for us. And it was absolutely heartbreaking. And I just remember being in the stands, so incredibly sad. And I'm pretty sure since I was on the front row, I think I don't think I know, I was on TV just in complete disbelief. And my friends sent me screenshots of the TV with sad me in the stands, just completely heartbroken, at a loss for words, just cannot believe this happened. Because as a Tennessee fan, that happens all the time. You think we have it and then we do something so completely idiotic or just self-destructive where we blow it. We have blown so many leads that this is just one of the many. I remember I texted you when you told us you were going to ask this question. It's where do I begin? Honestly, that one was tough. There was another one that just very briefly, we were playing Georgia because you mentioned Georgia earlier. And that rule that really dumb rule that I hate where if you fumble the ball and it goes into the end zone, it's a touchback.
Yes.
We lost a game in overtime to Georgia on that.
I remember this.
Pig Howard stretched his body as far as a body can stretch. Okay. And it's one of the coolest pictures I've ever seen, but I don't look at it because it's so utterly heartbreaking. But he stretched his body as far as it could go. He fumbles the ball in the end zone. It's a touchback. We lose the ball. Georgia goes down the field, kicks a field goal, wins the game. And I'm working that game. And I was standing in the end zone where he fumbled it. And it was those two losses leave such bad taste in my mouth because it was like we almost had it. And it was heartbreaking. But there's so many of them. So those are my two. There's more.
I'm going to add a little bit of insult to injury. I learned here recently that Trevor Lawrence was taking a visit to Tennessee for the Tennessee game. And maybe Oklahoma saved his career. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe he's not the number
potentially
one.
You could sure look at it that. I mean, I'm glad, honestly. I love Tennessee, but I've created a little distance because I think I told you they're the most unhealthy relationship I've ever been in.
I was just going to say.
They've broken my heart so many times. I keep giving them chance after chance, and I just need it for my own well-being to create a little distance there.
It's a toxic boyfriend. It's a drug that you have to rehabilitate yourself from. I love this.
Sure is.
Sure. All right. So I want to introduce y'all to our social manager, social maven, Javion Duncan, who runs the accounts that you so love. The number one ranked show, does a tremendous job and is here always turning out content for the show. But you could see my man has on a South Carolina Gamecocks jersey. And there's a little bit more to that as he tells the story about the worst loss that he ever saw his team take. Javion, what you got?
You know, RJ, as a former Gamecock football player, proud alum, you forgot to put the proud alum on my name. But as a player, the worst loss was losing to South Florida in the Birmingham Bowl of 2016, RJ. And, our introduction to the Birmingham Bowl was a cop, all the cops, let us know what our parameters are at the bowl game. And the cop pretty much says, look, guys, the best advice I can give you is just stay in the hotel. Don't go around anywhere. There's nothing in Birmingham really for you to do. So just have fun in the hotel. And so I knew, I was like, all right, this is how this is going to go. But overtime game, South Florida, my guy, Jake Bentley, I love Jake. Please don't hate me, Jake. But Jake got a sack fumble in overtime. We lose the game. By the way, Birmingham was freezing cold. So it wasn't like, a warm weather game where you were enjoying yourself. You were freezing. And RJ, that was my toughest loss, man. But still forever to thee.
Okay, Quentin Flowers and TJ Whites as the interim head coach hand y'all this 46-39 L. South Florida's 11-win team. Then y'all 6-7.
They were a good team.
You're not terrible. You're not terrible. All right, I'm gonna let you. You know what? I hope your Gamecocks do well, but you gonna owe me. You gonna have to pay up this bet at the end. I just and we'll leave that out of it for the time being. We'll leave that out of the time being.
Fair enough, RJ.